Come on, keep moving!
Prepare yourself.
Be ugly!
Captain Natalie Artemis and her elite squad of soldiers are pulled through a mysterious portal into a dangerous realm filled with gargantuan monsters. Trapped in a world where modern firearms are useless against Titan-sized beasts, Artemis must team up with a mysterious hunter to survive. Together, they use specialized weaponry and ancient knowledge to battle lethal creatures and find a way back home.
We have a lone survivor.
Captain, you see those? I'm a ranger, not an archaeologist.
Axe! Who the hell's that?
Damn, Marshal.
Damn. Mighty, please.
What were Bravo team traveling in?
Up armored. Boss.
We've got something.
What the hell? Like in hell, man?
Right, let's not find out.
Blown off. They can still tow Hawaiian. Damn! You ever seen lightning like this before?
Dash on your 12! What's that?
Ursula! Get off me! Get off!
Like in hell, man?
Let's not find out.
Blown off. They can still tow Hawaii.
Damn! You ever seen lightning like this before?
Dash on your 12! What's that?
What the hell just happened?
Okay.
To this, the nearest sand. I don't know.
DPB will run. She's had worse. This is screwed up. Must have been a lightning strike.
Make it back to base. We hoof it if we support. They'll send helos, maybe armor.
Boss.
Send it. Be formation. Move. Retrieve the bodies. Never seen a flamethrower do this. Glass and sand melt.
This shit is officially a... Let off a lot of rounds. Seen that before?
Nothing.
We need to get moving.
Dark Star to Falcon.
Not just Electron. They did something to us.
They say that in the army.
Hey guys, today we are diving headfirst into the sand-blasted chaos of the 2020 film Monster Hunter. This movie takes us from the familiar grit of military life to a landscape where physics is a suggestion and the wildlife really wants to eat you. This is a passion project for me, and a like or a subscribe is the best way to show your support. So if you're on board, join the crew. If not, thanks for watching anyway. We are exploring a world of giant blades and bigger teeth. The story begins in a place that feels like it belongs in a fever dream. Imagine a vast ocean of sand, but instead of water, there are towering dunes that shift and flow like waves. On this sea of grit, a massive wooden ship isn't sailing, but sliding. This is a sand ship, a marvel of engineering that looks like a pirate vessel met a desert sled. We see a group of people who definitely aren't from our world. They wear heavy armor made of scales and bone, carrying weapons that look far too large for any human to swing. Among them is a man known only as the Hunter, and their leader, a stoic figure called the Admiral. The air is thick with the sound of wood creaking and howling wind. Suddenly, the sand begins to bulge. Something massive is moving beneath the surface. This is our first introduction to the Diablos, a creature that is basically a living tank with horns the size of tree trunks. The ship is tossed around like a toy, and the Hunter is separated from his crew, falling into the endless dunes. This sets the tone for the entire world. It is a place where humans are very much not at the top of the food chain. The sheer scale of the ship compared to the monster tells us everything we need to know about the power dynamics here. Now we jump to our world, or at least a version of it. We meet Captain Natalie Artemis and her team of United Nations Rangers. They are out in a desert, but it is the kind of desert we recognize, full of heat, dust, and the hum of Humvee engines. They are looking for another squad that went missing. The banter between the soldiers is typical military stuff, full of lighthearted jobs and talk about chocolate. It provides a grounded contrast to the fantasy elements we just saw. Artemis is tough, focused, and clearly cares about her team. The sound design here is all about the mechanical, the rumble of tires on gravel and the crackle of radio static. But the atmosphere changes when they find the missing squad's vehicles. The Humvees aren't just wrecked, they look like they were melted or shredded by something impossible. There is a sense of dread that starts to creep in, a feeling that they have stepped into something they cannot understand. Then the storm hits. This isn't a normal sandstorm. It is a wall of black clouds and glowing blue lightning that looks like it was ripped out of a disaster movie. The wind screams, the sand becomes a blinding curtain, and the electrical discharge is so intense that it starts to pull at the vehicles. Artemis tries to keep everyone together, but the power of the storm is overwhelming. There is a deafening roar of thunder, a flash of blinding light, and then everything goes black. When Artemis wakes up, the world has changed. The sand is white, almost like salt, and the sky feels different. They are still in their Humvees, but the desert around them is alien. They find a set of massive stone pillars that look like they were built by a civilization that lived thousands of years ago. This is where the world building really kicks in. The ruins are huge, suggesting that whatever lived here before was either very large or very ambitious. The soldiers are confused, trying to get their bearings, but their technology is failing. Radios are dead, and GPS is a joke. They find the remains of the team they were looking for, but the bodies are charred in a way that modern weapons couldn't achieve. The sound of the wind here is different. It has a whistling quality that feels lonely and threatening. Then the ground starts to vibrate. It is a low-frequency hum that you can feel in your teeth. The sand begins to erupt. The Diablos has found them. This sequence is a masterclass in showing how useless modern technology is in this new world. The soldiers open fire with their assault rifles and machine guns, but the bullets just ping off the monster's hide like pebbles hitting a steel wall. The Diablos doesn't just attack, it dominates. It moves through the sand like a shark, surfacing only to smash a Humvee into scrap metal. The crunch of metal and the screams of the soldiers create a chaotic, terrifying soundscape. Artemis realizes that their training and their weapons mean nothing here. They are forced to flee into a rocky outcropping where the monster can't reach them, but the cost is high. Most of her team is gone, and the survivors are trapped in a nightmare. While Artemis and her remaining teammates hide, we get a glimpse of the hunter again. He has been watching them from a distance. He knows this world, and he knows how to survive. His gear is fascinating. He has a slinger on his arm, a mechanical device that fires rocks and grappling hooks. His armor is practical, designed to blend in and protect against specific threats. He doesn't speak their language, which adds to the feeling of isolation. He tries to warn them with a signal fire, but the soldiers see it as a threat. This misunderstanding leads to more tragedy. As the sun sets, the desert becomes even more dangerous. The Diablos is a diurnal hunter, meaning it sleeps at night, but that just means the nocturnal predators come out. Artemis and her team seek shelter in a cave system, thinking they are safe. They couldn't be more wrong. The caves are the home of the Nersilla, giant spider-like creatures that are the stuff of arachnophobic nightmares. The sound of their movements is a sickening skittering, the sound of many legs topping on stone. The walls of the cave are covered in thick, sticky webbing that feels like wet rope. The Nersilla don't just kill their prey, they paralyze them and drag them away to be used as incubators for their young. The soldiers are picked off one by one in the dark. The tension is built through sound, the heavy breathing of the terrified humans and the sudden, sharp clicks of the spiders. Artemis is the only one who manages to escape, but she is injured and alone. Artemis wanders the desert, dehydrated and exhausted. She eventually finds the hunter's hideout, a small cave tucked away in the cliffs. This is where the movie shifts from a horror survival story to a partnership dynamic. The initial meeting between Artemis and the hunter is a fight. Neither trust the other, and they both think the other is a monster. The choreography of this fight is brutal and tactile. Artemis uses her combat training, while the hunter uses his superior strength and specialized tools. There's a lot of grunting, the thud of fists against skin, and the metallic clang of the hunter's blade. Eventually, they realize they have a common enemy. The hunter has a collection of items that tell a story of his world. He has maps drawn on monster hide, barrels of strange liquids, and a massive bow made of bone. The world building here is subtle. We see how he uses every part of the monsters he kills. Nothing is wasted. He shows Artemis how to use fire to keep the Nersilla away, explaining through gestures that they hate the light. They share a meal of strange meat and chocolate, a small moment of humanity in a harsh world. This is where the YouTube hosted me has to point out that Artemis is surprisingly okay with eating mystery meat from a guy she just tried to stop, but hey, survival is a great motivator. The next phase of their journey is a training montage, but with a world-building twist. The hunter starts teaching Artemis how to use the weapons of his world. She tries out a few, but eventually settles on the dual blades. These aren't just swords, they can be infused with elemental energy. In this case, they can be ignited to deal fire damage. This introduces the concept of elemental weaknesses, a core mechanic of the world. Different monsters are vulnerable to different things. The hunter also shows her the importance of the environment. They gather plants and herbs to make potions and coatings for their weapons. The sound of grinding herbs and the hiss of the blades igniting becomes a rhythmic backdrop to their preparation. They are planning to take down the Diablos so they can cross the desert and reach the Sky Tower, a massive structure on the horizon that the hunter believes is the key to the portal. The Sky Tower is a remnant of an ancient civilization that once ruled both worlds. It is the source of the electrical storms that pull people through the portal. This adds a layer of mystery to the world. Who were these people? Why did they build a bridge between worlds? And why did it stop working? The battle with the Diablos is a showcase of strategy and teamwork. They don't just run at it with swords. They set traps using the Nerscylla venom they harvested. They use the hunter's bow to distract the beast while Artemis gets in close with her flaming blades. The sound of the battle is epic. The roar of the Diablos, the whoosh of the arrows, and the explosive crackle of the fire blades. Every hit feels heavy and earned. The Diablos isn't just a monster, it is a force of nature. It smashes through rock and tosses the hunters around like ragdolls. But through coordination, they manage to blind it and eventually deliver a killing blow. The silence that follows the monster's death is profound. It is the first time Artemis has felt a sense of victory since arriving. They take trophies from the beast, horns and scales that can be used to upgrade their gear. This reinforces the idea that in this world, you are what you kill. You wear your victories as armor. As they travel toward the Sky Tower, the environment changes. They move from the white sands to a more rocky, mountainous region. They encounter more of the local wildlife, including small lizard-type creatures that are harmless but add flavor to the ecosystem. The scale of the world continues to impress. The Sky Tower looms larger and larger, a jagged spike of stone and metal that reaches into the clouds. It is surrounded by a permanent storm, crackling with that same blue lightning that brought Artemis here. They eventually reunite with the Admiral and his crew on their sandship. The Admiral is a fountain of lore. He explains that the Sky Tower was built to harness the power of the monsters and use it to travel between worlds. But something went wrong, and now the tower is guarded by the Rathalos, the king of the skies. This monster is a legendary dragon that breathes fire and has venomous claws. It is the ultimate apex predator. The Admiral's crew is a diverse group, including a palico, a humanoid cat that serves as a chef and a warrior. The presence of the palico is one of those moments where the movie fully embraces its video game roots. It is a bit absurd, but in the context of this world, it works. The cat is tough, efficient, and makes a mean steak. The Admiral explains that the Rathalos is attracted to the energy of the tower. To get to the portal, they have to go through it. The plan is for Artemis and the hunter to infiltrate the tower while the Admiral's crew provides a distraction with the sandship. The final act of the movie is an action-packed climb up the Sky Tower. The architecture of the tower is a mix of natural rock and ancient technology. There are glowing runes and mechanical parts that still hum with power after centuries. The sound of the tower is a low, ominous thrum, like a giant heart beating. As they climb, they are attacked by the Rathalos. This fight is different from the Diablos fight. While the Diablos was a ground-based power hitter, the Rathalos is agile and dominates the air. It dives from the clouds, raining fire down on the hunters. The sound of its wings is like a canvas snapping in a gale, and its fire breath has a terrifying, roaring sizzle. Artemis has to use her slinger to navigate the crumbling ledges of the tower, making the sequence feel like a high-stakes platformer. The battle reaches a climax when the portal at the top of the tower activates. The blue lightning becomes a whirlpool of energy. During the fight, Artemis, the hunter, and the Rathalos are all sucked through the portal and dumped into our world. This is the crossover moment the movie has been building toward. Suddenly, a fantasy dragon is loose in a modern military base. The contrast is jarring and effective. The dragon tears through tanks and jets as if they were made of paper. The sound of jet engines and sirens is drowned out by the dragon's roar. Artemis finds herself back in her own world, but she is no longer the same soldier she was. She is a hunter now. She uses her dual blades and her knowledge of the Rathalos to lead the military response. She knows that bullets won't work, so she aims for the creature's weak points, its eyes and its throat. The Admiral eventually comes through the portal as well, swinging a massive glowing hammer. It is a spectacle of two worlds colliding. The modern world's technology is failing against the ancient power of the dragon, and only the tools and tactics of the new worlds can save them. They manage to drive the Rathalos back toward the portal, but the victory is short-lived. Just as they think they have won, another monster appears. This is the Gormagala, a dark, hooded creature that represents an even greater threat. It is a creature of shadow and viral energy, and its appearance signals that the bridge between worlds is more unstable than ever. The movie ends on a cliffhanger, with Artemis, the hunter, and the Admiral standing together, ready to face this new challenge. The final shot is of the three of them silhouetted against the glowing portal, weapons drawn, as the Gore Magala lets out a bone-chilling shriek. The journey is far from over, and the world-building suggests that there are many more monsters and many more secrets to uncover in the ancient ruins of the Sky Tower. The lore of the ancient civilization, the biology of the creatures, and the mechanics of the weapons all combine to create a world that feels vast and dangerous, a place where survival is the only law and the hunt never truly ends. In this journey across two vastly different worlds, we see a powerful reflection on the human spirit's ability to adapt and overcome. It reminds us that no matter how alien our surroundings or how insurmountable the odds may seem, we have an innate capacity to find common ground with those we initially perceive as different. The bond formed between Artemis and the hunter is a testament to the idea that shared struggle can bridge any gap, turning strangers into allies and fear into mutual respect. It is an inspirational look at how we can reinvent ourselves when our old tools and beliefs no longer serve us, finding new strength in the face of the unknown, and standing tall against the titans that roam our lives. Monster Hunter is a wild ride that prioritizes visual spectacle and world-building over a complex plot, but that is exactly what makes it a fun experience. It captures the raw scale of its creature designs and the tactile feel of its fantasy weaponry, making the audience feel the weight of every swing and the heat of every fireball. It is a love letter to the fans of the franchise while serving as a high-octane introduction for newcomers. Does it make us wonder what other secrets the Sky Tower holds and what other worlds might be connected to our own? Definitely. That's the end of our journey today. Thanks for sticking through the hunt. The story begins not in our world, but in a place that looks like a fever dream of a desert explorer. We see a massive ship sailing through a sea of sand. This isn't your typical wooden boat on the ocean. It is a rugged, reinforced vessel designed to glide over dunes like a surfer on a wave. The air is thick with the sound of grinding sand and the roar of a massive creature lurking beneath the surface. On deck, we see a group of hunters led by a man known only as the Admiral. They are clearly used to this environment, wearing armor made of scales and bone and carrying weapons that look far too heavy for any normal human to lift. Suddenly, the sand erupts. A creature known as a Diablos, a massive beast with two enormous horns and a body like a prehistoric tank, attacks the ship. The sound is deafening as the beast rams the hull. The hunters scramble, using harpoons and ropes to try and hold it back. One hunter is separated from the group, falling overboard into the churning sand as the storm intensifies. This storm is no ordinary weather event. It is a swirling vortex of glowing blue energy and lightning, a portal that bridges the gap between worlds. Meanwhile, in our world, Captain Natalie Artemis and her team of rangers are driving through a rocky desert in Humvees. They are looking for Bravo Team, which vanished without a trace. The atmosphere is tense but professional, filled with the hum of engines and the occasional crackle of radio static. Artemis is a seasoned leader, and her team consists of loyal soldiers like Link, Marshall, Dash, Steer, and Axe. They find the remains of Bravo Team's vehicles, but something is wrong. The metal is scorched and twisted in ways that explosives or missiles couldn't explain. There are no bodies, just empty sand and the eerie silence of the desert. Artemis looks up and sees a massive sandstorm wall approaching. It is unnaturally tall and filled with crackling blue electricity. They try to outrun it, but the storm is too fast. The wind howls with a screeching metallic sound that hurts their ears. The vehicles are tossed around like toys as the blue lightning strikes the ground, creating a blinding flash of light. When the dust settles, the world has changed. The sky is a different shade of blue, and the heat is more oppressive, like standing too close to an open oven. The team finds themselves in a vast desert of white sand that stretches to the horizon. They try to call for help, but the radio only emits a strange, rhythmic pulsing sound. They realize they are not in Kansas anymore when they discover massive footprints in the sand, each one larger than their vehicle. As they investigate, the ground begins to vibrate. It is a low, thrumming sound that you feel in your teeth before you hear it with your ears. Suddenly, the sand rises. The Diablos we saw earlier has found new prey. The creature is terrifying up close, its skin looking like cracked desert stone and its horns capable of flipping a truck. The soldiers open fire, but the bullets just ping off the monster's hide like pebbles against a mountain. The sound of their machine guns is swallowed by the beast's thunderous roar. They realize their modern weapons are useless against something this massive and heavily armored. The team flees toward a rocky outcropping, the only place the Diablos can't tunnel through. During the chaos, their vehicles are destroyed, and they are forced to hide in a network of caves. The air in the caves is cool but damp, smelling of decay and something sweet and sickly. They hear a clicking sound, like thousands of tiny needles hitting stone. They aren't alone. These caves are the nesting grounds of the Nerscylla, giant spider-like creatures with glowing eyes and jagged exoskeletons. The sound of their movements is a haunting skittering that echoes off the walls. One by one, the soldiers are picked off. Artemis watches in horror as her team is dragged into the darkness, the sound of their screams muffled by thick, sticky webbing. The Nerscylla use a paralyzing venom that works instantly. The tactile sensation of the webbing is described as being like wet, heavy ropes that stick to everything. Artemis manages to escape, but she is alone, exhausted, and haunted by the loss of her friends. While wandering the desert, Artemis encounters the Hunter, the man who fell off the ship at the beginning of the movie. He has been surviving on his own, living in a small cave and keeping a watchful eye on the monsters. Their first meeting isn't a friendly one. Communication is a challenge because they don't speak the same language. Their interaction is a tense standoff that turns into a full-blown brawl. The sound of their fight is visceral, the thud of fists against skin and the metallic clang of the Hunter's bone-chiseled knives hitting the ground. Artemis uses her military training, but the Hunter has the strength and agility of someone who hunts giants for a living. After a series of traps and skirmishes, they reach a stalemate. They realize that neither of them will survive alone in this world. They form a wary alliance, born out of the shared goal of staying alive.
The Hunter's Cave is a masterclass in world building. It is filled with artifacts from his world, jars of glowing herbs, dried monster meat, and various tools made from bone and scale. He shows Artemis how to use the environment to her advantage. They find fire herbs, which produce a chemical reaction that can ignite weapons. The Hunter demonstrates his great sword, a weapon so large it seems impossible to swing, yet he handles it with practiced grace. Artemis, preferring speed, takes an interest in the dual blades. The Hunter teaches her how to coat them in fire herb extract, making them glow with a searing orange heat. The sound of the blades being sharpened against a stone is a rhythmic, meditative rasp. This sequence shows the difference between the two worlds. Artemis comes from a world of technology and distance, where you shoot from afar. The Hunter comes from a world of intimacy and grit, where you have to look a monster in the eye before you kill it. As they bond over a shared meal of roasted monster meat, the sarcasm starts to leak in. Artemis tries to explain what a chocolate bar is, and the Hunter looks at it like it is a piece of poison. It is a moment of levity in an otherwise grim situation. They begin to plan their attack on the Diablos. The beast is guarding the only path out of the desert toward the Sky Tower, a massive ancient structure on the horizon that pulses with the same blue energy that brought Artemis here. The Hunter explains, through drawings in the sand, that the Diablos is a territorial predator that relies on sound. The plan is to use its own aggression against it. They spend days preparing, crafting explosives from modern grenades and local materials. The sound of the wind whipping across the dunes becomes the backdrop to their preparation, a constant reminder of the harsh world they are in. The battle with the Diablos is a spectacular display of strategy over brute force. They lure the beast into a canyon where its size becomes a disadvantage. The sound of the Diablos' roar is like a physical wall of sound that shakes the very air. Artemis uses her agility to lead the monster into traps, while the Hunter delivers crushing blows with his greatsword. The tactile descriptions of the fight are intense, the heat from the fire-coated blades, the spray of dark monster blood, and the heavy thud of the creature's tail hitting the rocks. At one point, Artemis is nearly crushed, the wind knocked out of her as she narrowly escapes a charging horn. They eventually manage to take the beast down, but it isn't a clean victory. It is a messy, exhausting struggle that leaves them both battered. The silence that follows the creature's final breath is heavy and profound.
With the Diablos gone, they make their way toward the oasis, a lush area that provides a brief respite from the desert heat. Here, the world building expands even further. We see Apsaros, docile herbivorous monsters that look like armored turtles. The water in the oasis is crystal clear, a stark contrast to the gritty sand they have been living in. However, the peace is short-lived. They are found by the Admiral and his crew, who have been searching for the Hunter. The Admiral is a mountain of a man with a booming voice and a presence that commands respect. He speaks Artemis's language, having encountered people from her world before. He explains that the Sky Tower was built by an ancient civilization to harness the power of the monsters and the rifts between worlds. The tower is guarded by a Rathalos, a legendary flying wyvern known as the King of the Skies. The Rathalos is a different kind of threat than the Diablos. While the Diablos was a tank, the Rathalos is a fighter jet. It breathes fire that can melt metal and has claws that can tear through armor like paper. The Admiral explains that if the Rathalos reaches the portal, it could cross over into Artemis's world and cause unimaginable destruction. The stakes are no longer just about Artemis getting home, they are about protecting her entire world. The sound of the Rathalos' wings flopping is described as a rhythmic thumping that sounds like a heartbeat in the sky. The final battle takes place at the base of the Sky Tower. The tower itself is a marvel of ancient engineering, with glowing runes and mechanical parts that hum with energy. It is a blend of magic and technology that defies the logic of this universe. The fight against the Rathalos is a multi-stage engagement. The Admiral's crew uses ballista and cannons, filling the air with the smell of gunpowder and the whistle of flying bolts. Artemis and the Hunter work together, using their combined skills to ground the beast. The sound of the Rathalos' fire breath is a terrifying whoosh, followed by the crackle of burning rock. In a desperate move, Artemis is thrown through the portal as it fluctuates. She finds herself back in her world, but the Rathalos follows her. The contrast is jarring. One moment she's in a world of ancient towers and monsters, and the next she's in the modern desert with UN helicopters and soldiers. The modern weapons, which failed against the Diablos, are slightly more effective against the Rathalos because of its softer underbelly, but it still takes everything they have. The climax is a frantic battle across two worlds. Artemis uses a rocket launcher to distract the dragon while the Hunter leaps through the portal to deliver the final blow. The sound of the explosion is followed by the metallic screech of the monster as it falls. The portal begins to collapse, a swirling vortex of blue light and debris. Artemis is faced with a choice: stay in her world or go back to help the Hunter and the Admiral. She realizes that as long as the Sky Tower is active, her world will never be safe. She chooses to go back. The transition through the portal is described as a crushing pressure, followed by the weightlessness of being between dimensions. She arrives back in the monster world just as a new, even larger threat emerges from the shadows, a Gormagala, a dark, eyeless dragon that spreads a black virus. The movie ends on a high note with the team ready to face this new challenge, knowing that their work is far from over. Throughout the entire journey, we see how the environment dictates the rules of survival. The monster world isn't just a place with big animals, it is an ecosystem that demands respect. The world building highlights how the ancient civilization used the monster's own biology to create their technology. The fire herbs, the glowing ores, and the monster scales are the building blocks of this society. The contrast between Artemis's world of cold steel and the Hunter's world of organic power is the central theme. We see Artemis grow from a soldier who relies on her equipment to a hunter who relies on her instincts and her bond with her partner. The sarcastic asides about the absurdity of fighting a dragon with a kitchen knife-sized blade help ground the story, reminding us of the human element in this fantastical setting. The sound design of the film is a character in itself. The clinking of the hunter's armor, the heavy breathing of the monsters, and the melodic hum of the Sky Tower create a rich auditory landscape. When the Rathalos screams, it isn't just a noise, it is a declaration of power. When the dual blades are activated, the sound of them igniting is like a torch being thrust into a gale. These sensory details make the world feel lived in and dangerous. The tactile descriptions of the various environments, from the stinging sand of the desert to the slick walls of the Nursilla caves, add a layer of immersion that makes the audience feel the struggle of the characters. As we look back on the journey of Captain Artemis and her companions, we are reminded of the incredible resilience of the human spirit when faced with the unknown. In a world that feels overwhelmingly large and indifferent to our existence, it is the connections we forge and the courage we find within ourselves that truly define our path. This story is not just about the monsters we face on the outside, but about the strength we discover when we are pushed to our absolute limits. It teaches us that even when the world shifts beneath our feet, we have the power to adopt, to learn, and to stand tall against the shadows. The transition from a world we know to one of legend is a testament to the idea that bravery is universal, transcending language and dimensions. We leave this tale with a sense of wonder for the vastness of the universe and a profound respect for those who fight to protect the light, no matter where they find themselves. Monster Hunter is a film that captures the sheer scale and awe of a universe where humanity is no longer at the top of the food chain. It succeeds in creating a visceral, high-stakes environment where every encounter feels like a fight for survival. While it leans heavily into its action roots, the underlying lore of the ancient civilization and the ecology of the beasts provides a fascinating backdrop. It leaves us wondering what other secrets are hidden in the sands and what it truly means to be a hunter in a world of giants. It is a thrilling ride that reminds us that sometimes, to survive, you have to trade your guns for something a little more legendary. If you could step through a portal into another world, what kind of hunter would you become? And would you have the courage to face what is waiting on the other side?